And welcome in everybody to the 2024 Summit City Sports Report Roundtable for week number 8. My name is Jeff Mahoney with Summit City Sports. We always have Tim Atkinson joining us and Thad Goff. We have others that will be joining the program a little bit later as well. And to start off, we're going to start off with the game that I went to this past Friday. It was Columbia City at East Noble. And as you can see, East Noble held a 35-0 lead at the half. So I know that shocked a lot of people in attendance. But really, once again, what stood out in that game was the play by the quarterback, Riley Biddle, completing 7 of 10 passes for 169 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. And the first 2 touchdowns went to Jordan Borders. So Borders entered the game with 1 reception, ended up with 3 catches for 24 or 61 yards. He had 2 24-yard touchdown receptions. So an absolute fantastic game by East Noble and by Riley Biddle. Looking at Columbia City, they were a little bit undersized, I guess you could say, in that game. East Noble's offensive line averaged about 30 pounds heavier than Columbia City's did per man across the line. But in that game, Landon Fazio did really well. It seemed like they were trying to get as fast as they could on offense. So at one point, they had Gavin Smith at a wing and Stratton Fuller at the other wing, and then Fazio was the fullback. Trace Parrish started off the game at fullback and did a fine job for Columbia City. Bradbury completing 4 of 15 passes. Remember, the week before, he only attempted 1 pass. So early on in this game, East Noble was forcing him to throw the ball and made it really, really tough on Bradbury, the senior QB. Now, one of the things that we did notice was in dime packages, East Noble, they can bring Riley Biddle back at a safety, which is where he started last year as a sophomore. So we did see Biddle a little bit on defense in that game. I think he entered the game somewhere around 10 tackles. So it's not like that was the first action all year that he had seen. Dylan Krell, great in the game, 10 carries, 58 yards. That 5.8 average is below his season average, which is hovering right around 10. But he also had 2 touchdown runs of 4 yards. So he made it look pretty easy on those touchdown runs. Seems like he could have broke those for much more yardage. But with that win right there, huge, huge win for East Noble, puts them in the driver's seat now in the NE8. Looking at those NE8 standings now, there is a 3-way tie when you look at the overall record. Thought that was a little bit interesting. Of course, East Noble's loss came against Snyder, but Columbia City sitting at 4-1 and Leo sitting at 4-1. East Noble's beat both those teams already. They'll travel to New Haven and then to Belmont. Poor Belmont. Once again, the struggles continue as they lost 50-9 against New Haven, but it does look like the final 2 weeks of the regular season sets East Noble up nicely for this sectional number 19. And in this sectional, we've talked about it. Wayne a lot better than that 3-3 record. Dwenger at 3-4 cannot be scoffed at. They're coming off a huge win against Bishop Luers. Leo's going to be in the running as well. Columbia City. But it seems like probably your 3 front runners for this section are East Noble, Wayne, and Bishop Dwenger. So we're going to move on to the next game. Did you guys have any questions about that one?
Yeah, Jeff. What was the atmosphere like there up in Kendallville in a much anticipated game?
Yeah, unbelievable atmosphere. Both sides were completely packed. And Tim, it was one of those games where you had the fans standing along the fence just outside the track. So for you and I, reminds you of those old Dwenger Snider rivalry games, or really any game that Dwenger used to play at Zollner Stadium, right, where the place used to be just packed. But atmosphere was probably better than what I had expected. I think back to some of those sectional games between Leo and East Noble, highly touted games. I'd never seen the off areas, you might want to call them,
right?
Not the stands, so full with people.
Yeah. There's no doubt. I kind of expected that, of course, Jeff. But how about just another weapon on the wide receiver core that Coach Stewart has. I mean, we already talked about the trio after that Leo game. Now they add another. I mean, that cupboard is completely full up there in East Noble.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing. And Tim, it's not only that, it's that all those guys have good size. When you look at Jordan Borders, try to pull him up here on the roster, but Jordan goes like 6'2". So that's another thing that you noticed was just the pure size of the athletes on the field, taller and a little bit bigger. But yeah, Jordan Borders, first two balls went to him and they were beautiful passes. I got to tell you guys, yeah, here's Borders right here, 6'2", 190 pounds, Tim. That's right up there with like a Braden Walter from Heritage, you know,
Right.
who's
that's
arguably
good.
the best in the ACAC.
Yeah, that's really good size for a wide receiver. There's no doubt about that. Now, I mean, Jeff, obviously looking at it, you know, New Haven picked up a big win against a Belmont team that continues to struggle. But you mentioned it, East Noble, looking at the rest of that schedule, you know, I know Coach Stewart is going to, you know, after listening to you and Jaron talk to them, they're not overlooking anybody. It's week to week type of deal. But that's got to kind of be hard for Coach Stewart to keep them reined in. Even though you're going on the road to both your last games at New Haven and at Belmont, but they're going to be overwhelming favorites.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just continue to do what you do. But one of the things that I mentioned in the broadcast is, you know, Coach Stewart has not had to show much. Okay. The last couple games here. So, you know, it's a time where they can work on some trick plays, work on some things that might be unconventional for East Noble that could really give them the upper hand if they're going up against a team against like Wayne,
Right.
you know, Wayne, who has just track stars all over the place. And arguably, I mean, and we're going to talk to Thad in a little bit, but what we saw from Kemar Nelson against Concordia, I think he's starting to solidify himself as that player of the year because he's doing it on both sides of the ball and absolutely dominating from that rush end position. I know he's a linebacker, but man, when you put him in that 2-point stance right on the edge, Tim, I saw him in that game pancake a few offensive linemen, and you normally don't hear that.
Yeah, and it's great. He got an invite to Toledo's game coming up, and you know it looks like it's going to start. The ball's going to start rolling with Kemar and his recruiting.
Yeah, and that's excellent to hear, Tim. Do you know what game he was going to be visiting for?
I want to say it's this weekend, this coming weekend. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look back at Twitter, but I'm pretty sure it was this coming weekend.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Shout out to the Rockets right there for getting the ball rolling because, Tim, I got to believe it's going to come fast and furious. And if you're Kemar Nelson, you really got to keep in mind the coaches that are showing you the most love.
Right.
It's not always the biggest program and the greatest program, but the one where you feel most at home at. And that's exactly what happened with the Jamarion Calaboti situation when he visited Delaware.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of that big snowball effect. Is what I'm seeing, and we've seen it with other kids in the past as well. So, yeah, I'm super excited for Kemar to get that look. And yeah, it's week number 5 against Miami of Ohio that he's there, that he's doing. But I mean, just what a great look. And we'll talk to Thad too. Adrian Wooten got it going on returning a kick, showing the speed, that track star as well. But yeah, I mean, it's great. But back to East Noble, I am so impressed with the Knights and Coach Stewart. You know, there's a lot of time. I don't care how well your program is run, which Coach Amsted's for years, but to bring in a new guy and have it not miss a beat. Not only that, they have blossomed under Coach Stewart, which I'm sure Coach Amstead is completely thrilled with. He had no ego there. So that's a really important thing to say is, you know, Coach Stewart and his staff deserve a lot of credit, Jeff.
Look at that ball right there. Woo. I mean, it gets from point A to point B with authority right there. I mean, yep. I don't know that I have seen this from an East Noble team yet. A guy that can sling it. You see that perfect spiral? Yeah. All of these passes. He had one pass to the near sideline, Tim, that was literally like thrown right at me as far as the trajectory was concerned. Beautiful ball. One of the most beautiful I've ever seen, no matter what level I was watching.
Yeah, he's looking like the future GOAT and Janie Daniels at Washington.
He's a good one.
Hey, Tim, Toledo played this past weekend against Miami of Ohio. They played good for him. Yep,
okay.
They played good for him. They won 30-20 for him.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Landon.
Yeah, brownie points.
Toledo's homecoming.
Okay. Beautiful.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you, Landon, and thank you, Thad. And Tim, we're going to go back to you, though. You were at Northside for the battle of the totem pole, and boy, it certainly was a battle.
Yeah, there's no question about it. One can look at it and say it was an ugly football game, but as Coach Ben Johnson said, it doesn't matter how ugly or pretty it looks as long as you win the game. And that's what they did. There was no offensive touchdowns in that game at all. The only touchdown came with a Jamari Pearson fumble recovery in the end zone. When I saw it live, it looked like a pass, but obviously it went backwards, so it was a fumble recovery. But Keyshawn or Cesarion Harris got in there in the sack as Southside was at 3rd and 3 or so on their 3rd and 7, on their own 3. And KJ Alexander got sacked. Harris basically pulled him down with one arm. And then Pearson was there just to oops, here we go, touchdown. And that was the only score. Really took out of it. Southside, there's definitely weapons out on that squad for Coach Goodwill. There's no question about it. I know they need to figure out how they're playing the calls and that sort of thing, as you'll see it right here. KJ rolls out, he comes back, and Harris is sitting there right there, whipped down, and the ball right into Pearson's arms for the touchdown. That defense was very impressive. They did get pushed around by that huge line for Southside at times. But the reason why Southside's backed up that far is because Avier White made a tremendous interception on the 1 yard line, a diving interception that was really special. And that's why they were back so deep. But, it was a game that was hard fought. It was one of the best crowds I've seen at Northside at Chambers Field on that side of the field. Had to work around traffic with our camera guy, but it was it was nice to see that out there. And we didn't get the color rush that Coach Johnson wanted, but we'll see if that happens in the future. But yeah, Tristan Newsome, played okay. Malik Moore did drop a ball early in that quarter that probably would have been a touchdown. But the Northside Legends, they just figure out a way to get it done against Southside. I think it's 7 years in a row now that they have the totem pole. And it was, basically you got to win and move on, and getting above 500, getting some momentum was key for Northside and Coach Johnson. There's no doubt about it. We'll talk later tonight about it. But the other thing was they're outstanding. This may be the Yeah, that's who I was getting to next, Jeff. Marcus Williams, the sophomore running back, who is 3rd on the depth chart. All right. They had Caleb Kingley, the outstanding sophomore. And then they had Jayshawn Early, the junior. Both are injured still. Kingley dealing with the high ankle sprain, and I forget what Early is dealing with, but he was out as well. That's their 3rd string running back, and he was looking like Derrick Henry out there. As a sophomore, he is extremely strong. He's thick, and he's got some speed to break away that line. You see the cut right there, and then the speed to get into that 2nd and 3rd levels of the defense. He's a very good prospect. I'm sitting there watching the game, Jeff, and I'm like, they got another one, another running back. That is just absolutely look. I mean, that's the one was just Derrick Henry-esque. You see how he's running, he's bulldozing, the stiff arm. Look at him. He knows that he can be really good, and so does Coach Johnson. He was a very good bright spot. Look at that stiff arm. Come on. He was a huge bright spot for that offense. As you see, assistant coach right there loving it as well. But yeah, you're right. Marcus Williams was outstanding. James Early Jr. had a good game. Masasu in the backfield. Shout out James Early Jr., who just committed to the University of Cincinnati. Congratulations, young fella. So there's that combined sack with Masasu. I think Moore was in on that one as well.
Yep.
Malik Moore showing some really good prowess on the defensive side of the ball. But Southside did have some good things as well. Silas Portee, really good player, very strong. Look at that hit. Come on. That first point of contact's insane. But Portee, Javon Irby, they have some players there at Southside. Just got to put it together. Just missing a player or two here and there to be able to get these wins. And this is the interception right here. Whoop. Avier White. Unfortunately, Pearson blocked us a little bit on that, but that was a full layout diving interception at the 1 yard line as Northside was getting ready to score. So it was a great night, great atmosphere. One of the best atmospheres I've seen at Chambers Field, to be honest with you, over the last several years. And I know Coach Johnson is extremely thrilled with the win.
JT Timberlake Johnson dove for that ball.
That's who it was. Yep. Sorry.
It right out of the air. I mean, that's an impressive play right there. Tim, looking at the stats in this game, no one's really been able to slow down Tristan Newsome this year. And it seemed like Southside was able to, or was that just kind of the flow of the game? Tristan Newsome, 4 of 8 passing, 45 yards, did have the one pick that you saw right there, which was an exceptional play. A lot of times you really can't fault the quarterback for that. He's trying to fit it through a window. But man, JT Timberlake Johnson did a great job just jumping that route, plus the snag. But then you look at the rushing. I mean, Williams couldn't be stopped. 18 carries, 127 yards. Yeah. Newsome 8 for 55. That's still a really, really good night. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's they relied on Williams so much to move the ball. Tristan got out a couple of times out of the pocket. You saw that on the interception right there. I guess he'd probably consider it an off game for himself. I think he had a big run that was called back with a holding call. There was a couple bad snaps, but this is what he can do. Yeah. A low snap, he takes a 3-hopper at his ankles and ends up moving the sticks on it. He is so impressive. And shout out to him, just picked up an offer from Trine, I think today or yesterday. So Tristan Newsome, his recruiting starting to get going. But they were heavy loaded with Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams was the absolute stud of the night. Here it is. Look at Newsome. I mean, that's and Southside did a good job of keeping their lanes, keeping him corralled so he couldn't break out to a 50 or a 60-yard gain. I think that was his biggest rush of the night. But, that's not only good blocking, that's great vision, to read those blocks. You see a lot of kids can run to the backside of one of his offensive linemen. He is really reading the flow of the block and going whether against it or he feels like he's got the speed to get out in front of it. He was absolutely tremendous. And yeah, Shorter had a real good game. They had a real good push up front. Did Southside. It was number 50 and number 55. I don't have the roster in front of me. But
Zion Boone, Davion Shorter.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, they very, very impressive defense. I mean, to hold Newsome and Pearson and Malik Moore to not a whole lot throwing the rock. It says a lot about the defense of Southside.
Look at the push by that defensive line. I mean, that is impressive. Tim, it's a matter of time, I think, before colleges start noticing JT Timberlake Johnson, on that Tristan Newsome run. That was him coming up and making the stop. He just seems to have a nose for the football and just keeps on making plays. Now, this is a very emotional game for Josiah Malone coming back to his the school he was first at. But how did he look in this game?
Yeah, limited amount of rolls, rushing the ball. I think the emotion was getting to him a little bit. He punted as well. He had a couple of really nice punts. That hit right there from Malik Moore was insane. But look at Malone. It did not faze him. He is not very big at all. His dad, Zeke, would have been very, very proud of him on that catch. And KJ showing you a little zip here on the ball. He squared his shoulders up really nicely, and Malone took it. But there's Malik. I mean, Malik's laying some wood as well. Dietrich Smith played really well for Southside, running the ball as well. I was getting it mixed up with 6 and 8 with those numbers. It was tough to see from far up there. Thank goodness the Southside coaches were sitting right next to me. But Brandon Jenkins, another one. That's another one that jumped out at me, Jeff. There, that sack with him and early there to the top left. Brandon Jenkins, I think he had at least a sack and a half, maybe 2. But he was very disruptive off the edge. Look at him shed the block. You know, he's keeping his lane and making sure Alexander stays inside the pocket. And as soon as Alexander tries to bump out, he's right there. Brandon Jenkins, he's a very underrated player for Northside as well, number 4.
Well, Thad, did you have any questions for Tim about this game?
No, not really anything about that game.
Because you were over at Concordia for the Wayne game, and man, it did not look like that there was any answers for Wayne's offense by the Cadets, and you could pretty much say the same thing defensively as well. Wayne's defense looked phenomenal. I believe Concordia got all its points in the second half. Was that correct?
No, that's actually not correct. Concordia actually scored. They did get most of their points in the second half, but they did score on their first drive of the game. And actually, that's not even correct. They scored late in the second quarter before that big kick return touchdown by Adrian Wooten. But Concordia, they scored on their first drive. They moved the ball down the field. They had Braden Corbett as the starting quarterback this time around, and that's just a good route run there by the freshman, Mike Henley Jr., who catches the touchdown pass. And I'll say this about Henley. He had 3 catches in the game, which 37 yards, which that may not necessarily stand out to you, but it's a freshman getting an opportunity early in the game, and Corbett continued to look to him time and time again. But Wayne kind of had to regroup after that opening drive that Concordia put together, but they did. It was if you were to ask Coach Haydock, it's probably not the prettiest game his team ever played. They had a whole lot of penalties. Some of them even took touchdowns on the board, but they were able to bounce back from a couple of those penalties and still come up with scores after committing those penalties, which were shots in the foot. Yeah, Nelson would have been gone had he not been tripped up there. I'd say he was definitely the best rusher that Wayne had in the game, though not the only guy who had a quality day. Kevon Morris, a freshman, 7 carries, 70 yards as well.
You know, Thad, what were your thoughts on Harold Mack in this game? Every time I see Mack, he's always completing it at a high percentage, 11 of 17, 173 yards, 65%, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a QB rating of 137.6. He may not look like Pat Mahomes out there with his style, but his production seems to be Pat Mahomes-esque.
Well, there's a couple of things that Harold Mack gives you. The first thing is he gives you arm strength. He can throw the ball down the field. He can do a combination of, he can either sit in the pocket and find the receiver that way, but he can also maneuver in and out of the pocket. He can give you some mobility. He's got good touch and good accuracy on his throws. And I think that I'd say he's so far been better in those categories than Trey Dillard. Now, I know Trey Dillard's kind of finding his niche at the receiver / tight end position, and we'll definitely see a lot of good from him on the basketball court. But I think Mack gives you better passing quality when he's in the game at quarterback as opposed to what they had gotten from Trey Dillard early on.
Look at that catch by Eldred. There's 2 of them on the team now. I believe that was Tyree, number 25.
Yeah, that was Tyree, and Tyree was used often in the passing game. I believe it was 5 catches for 49 yards in the game, 9.8 yards per carry. And they found ways to get the ball to Tyree. In that case, that was a 2-point conversion. They were backed up because of another penalty, but they were able to get him the ball down the field, little fade route. They were able to get some screens to him and let him see what he could do with his speed. And they're basically just finding ways to get Tyree the football. And so far, he's been pretty productive.
Boy, you were talking about how well of a season Lanaz Martin's having on defense. He even got 2 carries in this game. Kevon Morris.
I think it's Kevon Morris, if I'm not mistaken. Freshman. I think most of his carries came late in the ball game, but he was pretty impressive carrying the football.
Well, that's excellent. Tim, did you have a question for Thad?
Yeah, next man up situation there at Wayne. It's kind of like Northside. There's a plethora of running backs out there. But finally, Thad, Adrian Wooten, I think it was a kick return. I don't think it was a punt return. Was it? I mean, he really showed his speed again, like what we saw last year. Just hasn't been able to break one out yet this year.
Yeah, you're right. It was a kick return, and that was a very impressive play right after a Concordia touchdown. And Wooten, he was he got down the sidelines, but he had an opening to his left. I mean, I give him credit for the vision that he had to find that space and take advantage of it. You'll see it right here at 84 yards. Bobbled it initially, but once he got control of the ball, he was off and running, and I don't think he even slowed down at any point once he got control of the football.
Yeah, you see his speed. Watch his stride once he gets going. It's almost 2 strides for every 5 yards. The kid absolutely has outstanding track speed with that long stride. He is so impressive. He had a great interception return for a touchdown, like 94, 96 yards last year. I forget who it was against. But he's a special kind of athlete. It was good to see him break one out when I rewatched it.
Yeah, and here's Josiah Stallings, who's been the starting running back for the last 2 years, rushing in. And then another guy that seemed to make a ton of plays here, Jaden Bushy. He and Kamar Nelson combined for the sack. How often were you calling his name in this game?
Well, I called his name a pretty good bit. Bushy was he was making an impact, getting in the backfield, and he's been doing a lot of that all season long. We talk a lot about Kamar Nelson, and he deserves it. Jaden Bushy is not only experienced, he's one of those guys who is constantly making his presence felt in the backfield and constantly around the football.
You talked about the freshman wide receiver for Concordia. How about Braden Corbett? Didn't start off the season as the starting quarterback. Jack Andrews did, but he seems to be doing pretty good out there.
Well, he's doing all right. He had to battle in this game. When you go up against a big front seven like what Wayne has, with so many really good, solid dudes up front, it's going to be a dogfight for a young quarterback. And Wayne got the best of him this time around, and I think Corbett definitely has some tools to be successful. He's got a good arm. He's got some good pocket presence, and I think we might just see him develop. There's Concordia has a number of upperclassmen receivers this year, but I look at some of the at the roster a little bit. Henley, just a freshman. Denzel Barr, another freshman. He didn't play much, but that might be a name that some of you might remember who watch middle school basketball. He played at St. Paul, and he was one of their better players. So as we see these youngsters develop for Concordia, who knows? We may see a lot of good in the future for the cadets.
Well, it's nice to see Michael Henley going out there and having success, catching a touchdown pass in that game against Wayne, which has a very good defense and a very good defensive backfield. Up next, we have Hunter Sosenheimer, who is over at Spooler Stadium. Snyder getting the win over their rival Northrop. Obviously, both share the stadium for their home field, but wow, in this game, Aaron Vance with 4 touchdown passes, kind of a breakout game for him, huh, Hunter?
Yeah, Aaron Vance went absolutely nuts, was credited for all 6 touchdowns, had 4 touchdowns through the air and 2 on his feet as well. 20 for 25 through the air, 311 yards, as you see on your screen. He had a tremendous game all the way around. Jordan Davis in the backfield, too, as well. He's been kind of sharing the load with the freshman and Braylon Burton here this season. But those two did a tremendous job controlling the backfield there for Snyder, and was a tremendous offensive effort there by the Panthers.
Yeah, and it's not like Northrop laid an egg in this game. I mean, they did pretty well in their own right. A couple touchdown passes by David Callison. Here it is, 8 of 20, 225 yards passing. I mean, that's still impressive on a Friday night. 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. And nobody will really be surprised here. Quay Guilford scored one of the touchdowns. Jamari Brown, 5 catches for 115 yards. Did the Northrop offense seem like it was starting to get into a rhythm, or was a lot of that late in the game after Snyder had kind of solidified it?
No, the Snyder main defensive players were actually still on the field. The first touchdown that was scored from Northrop came in the first quarter. It was a 77-yard touchdown pass from Callison to Jamari Brown. You'll see it here on your screen. Was just a tremendous ball played, and there you see the blow by on that far end. There from the defensive back. I believe that's Calabodi and Brandon Logan. So Brown showing you the speed a little bit there. Did a tremendous job bringing that one in. And then the second touchdown pass that came from Callison was a 96-yard touchdown pass there from Callison to Quay Guilford. It was in the third quarter, too, as well, as Guilford got behind and got by the Notre Dame commit, and Brandon Logan just absolutely blew by him, showed the speed. So those two are two tremendous wide receivers with some great speed. You see here, you'll see it here on your screen momentarily. But yeah, the Northrop offense, they looked really, really good. Kind of shot themselves in the foot, I would say, early in the first quarter, excuse me. They went for it on 4th and 2 times and didn't convert in their own red zone. So that kind of gave the ball to Snyder, and it was just like Snyder obviously has the offense to score. Gave them the ball at the 20-yard line, and Snyder punched in 2 touchdowns. So.
I saw this in the Homestead game with Brandon Logan, but look right here how Brandon Logan has to stop and reverse direction, and really there's no separation from Quay. So I just thought that was special because I saw that again in the Homestead game against Sam Stewart. Wow, yeah, 2 big plays there by the Northrop Bruins. One of the plays that really stood out to me, and you were talking about the 6 touchdowns. The other touchdown was right here with the freshman running back?
Yep, Braylon Burton taking it right up the middle again, just open space for him. That freshman is tremendous. He's going to be a one to watch around the area in the next few years or so.
Yeah, and just you really notice his speed is this downhill outright speed right there. And you see how he shifts towards the middle of the field, just getting that separation. He can feel the defenders on his right shoulder. So super impressive. But yeah, I thought one of the coolest plays on the day, and people had some fun on social media with it. But Aaron Vance to Owen Dotson. Dotson, the younger brother of Ethan Dotson, the Air Force lineman.
Yeah, that was a nice ball there to that far side, and you see Dotson just breaking away, getting some space, and able to get to that far end and bring it in. And you see the Snyder offense is just fired up for him to bring that one in.
That celebration was awesome.
Should we run that one back one more time?
Absolutely. Look how excited. That's when you know a kid really has the backing of his fellow players. Look at every single player is jumping for him. And hey, there's one thing I've noticed this year on a sidebar before we get back to Hunter. The refs are letting the celebrations happen a little bit more this year. As long as they're not disrespectful, you're not, showing someone up. I love that the officials, and I don't know if it's an IHS thing that they wanted to let, a little bit looser or whatever, but I've noticed it this year. And I think it just adds something a little bit more to it. I love the celebrations. This right here is what it's all about. That's outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And we had said that in the past. You remember when Langston Level got suspended for the Concordia game? Yeah, because of that touchdown against Northside. And, it's like we always say, the kids want to emulate what they see on Sunday afternoons in the NFL games. And, you're seeing that the No Fun League is allowing it and allowing the guys to have fun. So I think it's great. Like you said, as long as they're not, flipping off the other team or cursing at the other player.
Yeah, that's kind of key. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Jeff, if you want to actually go ahead and click on the Aaron Vance to Trevor Jarvis to end the first half play. Sorry, it was the next one over. That was, I don't want to say it was a key play there in the first half, but it was a ball that was thrown to the end zone, that middle one right there. It was a ball that was thrown to the end zone with 3 seconds left in the first half. And I mean, the Snyder faithful was not too pleased with the refs here. As you see Jarvis bring it in, he does not go down there and stretches it over the goal line, and it was called no touchdown. They called him down at the 1 yard line as time expired in the first half. And that was, I think, kind of a momentum builder, I guess, for the Northrop defense to get the stop. But yeah.
And it looks like, how many times have we seen it in the NFL in recent times where you're thinking, especially down towards the goal line, oh, he's in. There's no doubt he's in. And then they super slow-mo from the side camera, which we don't have $1 million in our budget to be able to put that guy down there. But then you see that an elbow will hit or a piece of his hip will hit. I wonder if Jarvis's bottom hit the grass right there. I mean, it's really hard to tell, especially from this side judge, and even the back judge looked like he's blocked right there. So, I wouldn't hate on the officials on that.
Yeah, I mean, the refs have a better view than us in the press box from a million feet above. So
yeah, but it definitely makes for good enjoyment out on the social media world, though. That's for sure.
I tell you, as I'm looking at it, it looked like Jarvis's elbow went down right at the goal line just before the ball broke the plane. So I think that's why the call was made short of the goal line, no touchdown.
I want to more talk about how Aaron Vance got out of that pocket.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Hunter, you're watching that live.
Yeah, no, he broke through 3 different defenders, and I was like, holy smokes, I don't even know how he got out of it. Just came to this near side. And you see when he throws the football, too, he has time to set his feet and is able to get off that throw, which is another big thing to even make that throw there to the end zone. So very, very well done there by the senior quarterback. He had a tremendous night for Snyder.
Hunter, did you feel like, Snyder played the way you thought they would play against Northrop?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were hunting their 28th straight victory against Northrop, so they were kind of going out with they needed to continue to keep the streak alive and continue to win these games versus Northrop. And I think Snyder did a tremendous job and handled it very, very well.
Fry in with the touchdown on the swing pass. Did you see him in the backfield a lot blocking for the 2 running backs?
Yeah, he kind of started out as like a tight end kind of feel and then went into fullback position too as well. Did tremendous blocking there on the backside for Snyder too.
Well, some other games, Huntington North at Leo, Carson and Joe Northern, not with us, obviously, but that was another game we were at. The Belmont at New Haven game. That was Steve. The rest of them we got covered. But, yeah, the one person I wanted to single out in that game was the sophomore QB. I know the Leo fans are pretty excited about him. Here's Navion Gibson with a touchdown. Here's Wallace to Turner, an 80-yard touchdown. And as soon there it is, Ethan Wake. So Wallace is a senior. This is the sophomore QB, maybe in waiting over there at New Haven.
Josh or Jeff, it was almost like he set me up right there. That's my little cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my cousin Katie Cochran. Well, now Wake. That is their second to youngest kid. I've called him Milky his whole life because he spit milk all over me when I was holding him when he was like 2 years old. But this
I like
kid
him already.
Yeah, this kid is really, really quick, and he loves playing sports. And I know football is his huge love. He's going to be a really good one. Just don't talk to his Uncle Rob because he'll talk your ear off for about a half day about how much Ethan needs to get some reps. But it was good to see him getting some reps down there in kind of blowout time just to get some varsity stuff going for him. But Ethan Wake's going to be a tough player in the future.
Here you see Foster. Boy, I'm not sure what was going on with that camera there. But Foster in for the touchdown. Leo, pretty dominant win there over Huntington North. But yeah, so let's move ahead and look at the games for next week. Landon, we're going to start with you. You'll be at New Haven. It's East Noble at New Haven. The Bulldogs here, kind of a head scratcher because, man, that's a really good win for New Haven, their first win on the season. The 70-0 leaves a sour taste in your mouth, but I'm telling you, it's something about going to Columbia City. It's a tough place to play, especially for New Haven. But Landon, what are your thoughts entering this game, East Noble at New Haven?
So, New Haven coming off of its first win of the year, as you mentioned, Jeff, it's so important to get your first win of the year. I don't care what time of the year you're in. I don't care what type of team you are. To get that first win of the year is so important, especially at this time of year, to be honest with you, Jeff, because you got sectionals on the horizon. And if you can get some things clicking like they did on Friday night, I know, take it with a grain of salt. Belmont's 0-7. Something went their way, and they needed something to go their way. They finally did get something to go their way, and I think they could, if they can just take that, build with it, they could get something going in a couple of weeks for postseason play. East Noble coming off of another top 10 win in their class. That's now 2 of them, another statement win. You could say Leo was a statement win. This was definitely a statement win for East Noble. As you see the New Haven Belmont highlights rolling here, New Haven just really finally putting something together on the offense and on the defensive side of the ball on Friday night. Was able to watch the tape on it. So good for New Haven. They finally got something to go their way. It's been all year, obviously. It was 0-6 versus 0-6 on Friday night. So it was good to see New Haven putting stuff together there for Coach Scherer and the Bulldogs. But back to East Noble, coming off of a huge win. That was a physical game against Columbia City. Big boys. You're talking big boys. A lot of wrestlers, Jeff. It could be a little bit of a letdown spot for East Noble. They're coming off of a tough physical game. New Haven got their backups in the ball game. So did East Noble, though. Don't forget that. So it could be a little bit of a letdown spot. It's hard coming back from playing a top 10 game to now playing a 1-6 team. And then next week, East Noble has Belmont. So they need to put their foot on the gas pedal and leave it there. They can't go into this ball game, Jeff, thinking, hey, we got this under control. We're 6-1 right now. We're fine. We're totally fine. We got the conference. Because I'll tell you what, they slip up in this ball game. New Haven had Leo down 7-0 at one point in that ball game. They slip up. They might let the Bulldogs hang around there too long. They might be on upset alert on Friday night, Jeff.
Well, it is good to see. You got DJ Simpson. We saw Navion Gibson earlier, Jamarcus Turner, Dominic Wallace, Aaron Hoffer. It seems like their big 5 on offense are all pretty healthy. You got to love the disco show there at New Haven as well. But it seems like they're all healthy for this game, and that's going to bode well for New Haven. If they can control the clock with the run game and hit a few home runs, they can stay in this game for a little bit. You just kind of feel like East Noble, this is their year with that group of seniors that they have.
Oh, absolutely. And I think their main focus right now, take care of business. On the bond paper, they're the best team in the area. I'll say it right now. They are, the way they have been playing, the way they're lost 35-10 against Snyder. Snyder, obviously another great area team. East Noble, it is their year with this group of seniors right now, Jeff. And if they want to make a run, they got to keep taking care of business. I'll say that a lot on Friday. They need to take care of business.
East Noble, the best team in the area or the best team in the NE8?
Jeff, I'm going to go out and say it. Area. I think this East Noble team is the best team in the area.
I would agree with you pound for pound. I think you could say that. Obviously, the loss to Snyder in week 2, so Snyder would have something to say for that. But Tim and I talked about it last week. The game ends at halftime on a Friday. You drive 50 minutes to Kendallville, wake up in the morning, drive 50 minutes back for a 12 p.m. second half kickoff. You're asking your boys to do a lot there. Snyder had the home game in that one, actually, but I hear you. I feel like East Noble has gotten better from week 2 to week 8 than almost any other team in Northeast Indiana. Maybe Adams Central.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good call. You could sniff Carroll in Snyder in that list in the 260. But Landon has got a really good point. They very well could be right now the best team, at least playing the best of anybody in Northeast Indiana.
Yeah, and if we were judging teams off weeks 6 and 7, Thad, would you think Wayne would be in consideration?
Probably in consideration. I think that Wayne is definitely, they've played a tough schedule, but because of the toughness that they play with and how well they do up front, I think they definitely would be able to make a statement in that race.
Well, up next, Bishop Dwenger at Snyder. I'm going to call it's the best rivalry north of Indy. There's no doubt about that. I think you could look at Ben Davis, Warren Central, Center Grove, Carmel, whatever. There are some really good rivals. Honestly, I'd probably say it's between Ben Davis and Warren Central and Dwenger and Snyder. But yep. Tim, it's going to be hype as always. Dwenger's coming off 2 straight wins, including the 8-0 shutout of Luers. Kind of surprising when you look at that Luers offense really couldn't get going almost at all. And Dwenger's starting to add some pieces to their offense that seem to be helping when you look at Pelkington, running the ball for them. But what are your thoughts on this game? I know we're going to talk with the coaches this week, but pre-coach talk.
Yeah, we'll talk to Coach Garrett later this evening. Well, actually, in a little bit. Very impressive win. Lucas Wynn, who's a Division I kicker. That is not a term that I throw around lightly anymore. He is legit D1 kicker with touchbacks, his field goal kicking. So he was 2 for 2 field goals, and that defense got a safety. That was the only scoring in that ball game. That was impressive to hold Williams to not a lot. The Bishop Dwenger defense, when we saw them at Northside, we were so impressed with their speed and their ability to get there. But you're right, Jeff, as far as rivalry, especially in this area, it's right at the top for me. Dwenger, it's the funny thing about them is they really have 2 huge rivals with the Battle of the Bishops and Luers, and now back-to-back weeks with Snyder. Snyder and Dwenger, huge rivalry. It's definitely more of a rivalry than Snyder and Northrop just because of the domination.
I was just about to say that, Tim. That's what I was thinking. Coming from a Snyder kid, I feel like Dwenger is the rival game instead of Northrop. I think it's Snyder and Dwenger. It's 100%.
Yeah, anybody in the know knows that for sure. Absolutely, Hunter. You're dead on. But to me, it's going to come down once again to Bishop Dwenger being able to throw the ball a little bit. If they can throw the ball a little bit, and help out Pelkington and Tippmann and Shefferly and some of those running backs, it'll be, they could win this ball game. I mean, everybody was writing Bishop Dwenger off, from, what was that game? From the Carroll loss, the 31-3 drubbing against Carroll at Shields Field, and then a loss 17-14 at Homestead. Then they got the win against Northrop and that huge win against Luers. But after that Carroll game, everybody said, all right, when's Dwenger going to do something? Well, they showed you last Friday what they can do in shutting out Bishop Luers. Luers has scored 17, 34, 40, 20, 38. I mean, that was their first 4 or 5 games. They're scoring double digits and scoring big. And then for Dwenger to hold them to 0 points, that Northside game was a little bit of an anomaly because it was so muddy and rainy there at Luers Stadium. But shout out to the field dads out there at Luers. But Bishop Dwenger and Snyder, it is going to be so fun to watch. And also, I think an advantage with Dwenger is with their speed on defense, being able to keep Aaron Vance in the pocket, like what we saw when we were talking with Hunter and some of the highlight plays that Aaron Vance had. He gets out of that pocket and sees the field, and he can tuck it and really go. I think that's one of Dwenger's strength is to keep the quarterback in the pocket like that, like they did against Northside and Tristan Newsom. So, we're excited to be out at Spooler for maybe this will probably be the last time that Dwenger will have to play Snyder at Spooler. Hopefully that stadium gets done in 2026. So we're moving that right on campus at Snyder. It'll be back at Shields Fields next year. But yeah, this game, if this type of game and this matchup and this rivalry don't get you going, you just do not like Friday night like football.
Jordan or O'Keefe, who do you think will start against Snyder?
If I had, I would assume it's going to be Jordan. It feels like, O'Keefe had his moments when Jordan went down with that injury, but I think Jordan gives them the best chance to win right now, just with that extra year of experience. But Max Jordan played the whole game last Friday. I expect the same this Friday, barring anything crazy happening. But it's funny because the other sophomore in competition for the quarterback is Henry's little brother Max, who's also a sophomore. So the Dwenger youth at the quarterback position, within the CYO schools, that's key. Within the CYO schools, these kids care about Bishop Dwenger football. Their parents played it at Dwenger. Their fathers did. It's going to be an impressive watch coming this Friday. I cannot wait. Also, you had Coach Kaufman's son, the sophomore, getting, he's up to 400 yards or so rushing, along with Gus Tittman, the junior, Shefferly at 150 yards. They'll bring in Knipscher. I really like what Bishop Dwenger is turning themselves into right now. They're impressive, but like I said, what we were just talking about with East Noble being one of the tops in the area, Snyder's right up there as well. Their defense is game changing now with the back and forth with the two running backs now with Davis and Burton. The wide receivers are going to make plays. Aaron Vance is going to make plays. I expect this to be a close game come this Friday night at Spooler Stadium.
And did I hear you say Kaufman at running back?
Yeah, Kaufman.
And he's just not listed up here?
He's on my Max Preps. He got some touches.
Okay.
I think he's a sophomore. Tommy Kaufman. That's Coach Kaufman's son.
Well, good to hear. Good to hear. Up next, does anybody else have a question for Tim on that great rivalry game? Up next, we have Bishop Luers at Southside. Boy, keep an eye out on this game right here because it's going to be hard to run the ball against the Archers too. Hunter, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, both these squads are coming off of it seems to be very, very close games. Southside only losing to Northside 6-0, and then Luers only losing to Dwenger 8-0. So both these offenses got shut down. I haven't seen Luers play yet this year. Haven't really had time to go back and watch their film a little bit due to getting ready for soccer and stuff like that. But I'm very excited to see how this two quarterback system rolls out for Bishop Luers and see what they're continuing to work with on their offensive side of the ball. I've heard a lot of good things about Luers and just very excited to see what their offense maintains. Now, Southside, on the other hand, they're starting to turn the page a little bit, getting in the right momentum. Only losing that game 6-0 to Northside. I think this game is going to be very, very fun. Both these schools are within just a half a mile to a mile of one another, so all these kids really, really, I think, know one another, and that's what's going to make this game very, very fun between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm going to be at Wayne High School, Northside at Wayne. Super excited for this matchup right here. Harold Mack at quarterback. You just feel comfortable with him back there at quarterback that not only is he not going to do anything to mess up the game, but like Thad posted with his little Houdini magic back there, have 4 defenders barreling down on you and he just weaves his way through. And he's shown repeatedly that he can find the open wide receiver. Doesn't have to be a dart like Riley Biddle was throwing last Friday. He gets the ball from point A to point B and touchdowns are called. So, man, and that's a crazy rushing attack when you can have Josiah Stallings and Kemar Nelson and Harold Mack giving them the ball. And it's just the spoil of riches that you can have the Eldred boys get in there as well. So for Northside, you just kind of wonder which Northside's going to show up, Tim. Is it the 150 yards passing, 150 yards rushing for Tristan Newsome? Sprinkle in some Marcus Williams. I'd love to see that. All year long, we've been wondering, when is Jamari Pearson really going to break out and be the athlete that he is? He's still a great player on both sides of the ball. We just haven't seen it production-wise yet from Northside. I think this one is going to be a really, really fun game. And I think right now you'd have to give the edge to the home team in Wayne. Tim, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's, I mean, you could go that way for sure. There's no doubt about that. It's key now with Williams being able to run. Does Kingalake come back? To now they have a balance of running backs. When is Early coming back? Jay Sean, I'm talking about the junior, defensively. But I'm telling you, Jeff, those edge rushers and Jenkins and James Early Jr., it's going to have some problems with a quarterback that hasn't had a lot of reps. Harold is playing outstanding. There's no doubt about that. But the pressure he's about to see from Northside with Mansasu up the middle as well, Willie Ivy and company. I think the team that stays out of their own way the most, with penalties and turnovers, special teams is the other. Who can stay out of their own way? Whoever can do that the best, I think, wins the game. I think it's a close game. I think it's a higher scoring game. I think there's going to be some breakout players that we're not expecting to happen on offense. But yeah, that's if I wasn't Dwenger Snyder, that'd be the game I'd want to be at. There's no doubt.
Well, and you look at last year's game, it was Wayne winning at 18-12, and that was a really interesting game because Jamari Pearson went in at quarterback and just started slinging the ball all over the field. Malik Moore had like 4 receptions, and you could really tell with those 4 receptions that he was a special talent. Landon, we talked about it, East Noble and New Haven. Thad, Homestead at Concordia.
Yeah, this is going to be a game where both teams need a bounce back. Homestead, they're coming off that rivalry game against Carroll. They had it tied at 10 in the third quarter, and as I checked, they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter, shut out 21-0 in the fourth quarter, fought back, and then Carroll got the momentum back and essentially ran away with it. So Homestead, they're needing to bounce back. Concordia is still looking for their first conference win of the season, and Homestead's been a tough go for them. The closest, I'm pretty sure the closest that Concordia has come to beating Homestead on the football field lately was 2020, 4 years ago, and that was, I believe it was a 7-0 win for Homestead. Brandon Davis was the starting quarterback for most of the season for Concordia. He did not start that game. I believe he was dealing with an injury. Eli Maddox started in his place. So Concordia, they're looking to make a little bit of a statement against a team that's been one of the best in the area under head coach Chad Zolman for quite some time.
Yeah, looking back at it, it seems like Concordia has always played Homestead very, very well. And I know one of these during that state championship run right here, I think it was a missed field goal or a late field goal by Homestead that ended up getting them that victory. As you can see, the only 2 losses were Homestead and Snyder that year. Boy, what a difference your starting quarterback, Michael White, and Carter Kennedy make. Those 2 connected, 6 receptions, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now they are full strength at receiver is Homestead. You expect in this offense to continue to gel. You can see Sam Stewart led the team in carries. Jake Thrash had a great game too, averaging 6.6 yards per carry.
I think they will start to gel. And, I look at that running game, you see that Sam Stewart, he did lead the team in rushing yards, 52 yards. You also got some good production from Jake Thrash, senior, rushed for 46 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. So they got a little 1-2 punch in their running game, and I think that could very well bode well for Sparty.
Yeah, it's Stewart here, second on the team with 11 tackles. Marquell had 12 tackles. Either way, definitely going to be tough for Homestead in that sectional with all of the Indy schools mostly, at least on the outskirts of Indy. Noblesville, Hamilton, Southeastern, not the strongest teams in that area, but still, the Royals here have been number 1 in the state in the past 3 years. So a tough sectional. And I think this is one of the things where Tim, I know I said it earlier. I think in 6A and 5A, you can seed the sectionals and be safe.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. With the limited amount of schools, a lot of these 5 and 6A schools have the budget to be able to travel a little bit. You know, we talked to some of, Lawrence North and Warren Central. You know, they're open for it as well. With let's just seed it statewide, or what you could do is seed it a north and a south. You could seed that as well. I mean, you could even use the Sagarin ratings if you wanted to take the easy way out. But yeah, I think it's long overdue, especially for 5 and 6A with the limited amount of schools in those classes to seed the tournament.
And take a look at that one right there, guys. Lawrence North winning it 33-7 over Warren Central. They now lead the MIC. I believe they're ranked number 2 in the state behind Brownsburg. So,
yeah, Davion Chandler, the IU commit, just having an outstanding game at Aspelset. He is a tremendous quarterback for Lawrence North as well. The Moore brothers, they got weapons all over. And Jeff, when we saw them, there's no question that you expected this type of run out of their team. They're well coached and they got talent everywhere.
Yeah, Aspelett, 221 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then Xavion Moore ran for 100 yards, 4.3 average with 1 touchdown. So it doesn't really seem like the kind of numbers that would lead to 33-7 victory. But, Warren Central's offense definitely looked like they were a couple steps behind Lawrence North, and we saw them playing week 1 and week 2 respectfully.
Yep, you're right on there, Jeff.
Guys, any last comments before we end this and head into week number 8 this Friday?
That's just crazy that we're this far already. I mean, I think this Sunday, right, is the show. Did I hear you nodding over there, Landon? I think the sectional show is this Sunday on the Champions Network to see who's going to play who come sectional time. So this coming Sunday, we're going to know. It's going to be laid out. So we'll talk about that next week for everybody as well.
Yeah, and even though, we're looking forward to sectional 19 and a lot of our area teams in that sectional, it really doesn't even matter. There's nothing to really get excited about with the selection show because they're all grouped together. Well, it's going to be one of these 6 or 8 playing each other. But now if you open that up statewide, I think it would be really, really special and really, really fun. And like you said,
right,
via proximity, maybe just go north and south.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But the thing that people are really going to watch for, especially when it comes to like a sectional 19, is an East Noble Leo going to play the first game. That's the type of thing that people are really going to be. What exactly?
East Noble, New Haven.
Right. They're really going to be watching for, okay, are 2 of the top teams in the conference or the area going to play each other? That's you even see that. I mean, if they want me to, I could do it all for them if they want me to.
Well, we know we got Sagarin and stuff like that, which is not 100% perfect, but would definitely suffice. But I just got to believe that there would be more to talk about, more fan engagement if you open it up a little bit broader than just the sectional.
I agree.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that, Thad or Landon? Well, I just want to notice here, Woodland now winners of 3 straight. So they're 4-3 now. They're at South Adams and they got to host Adams Central. 2 tough games, but you got to like the direction they're heading in that very tough sectional number 26.
Yep. Well, yeah, you guys enjoy your game Friday, boys.
Yeah, shout out to Garrett and that 7-0 season they had. That big upset over Heritage in sectionals last year, and it looks as though Chris DePue's Railroaders are they've got this train rolling down the track.
Oh, yeah. I see what you did there, Thad.
It looks like DePue's going to be the Northeast Indiana Coach of the Year, and what West Noble did over there at Lakeland, 35-0. You got to believe that they're going to be the heavy favorites in that sectional as well. So,
yeah,
folks, thanks so much for joining us. Tim Atkinson, Thad Goff, Landon Trailer. We had Hunter Sosenheimer, chiming in as well. So everybody have a great rest of your week, and we will see you Friday night at the big games. Thanks, everyone.